Welcome. Hi there. Today I want to talk about broken relationships, as the hurt and pain from these holds people back so much from reaching their true potential in life. Betrayal, misunderstandings and hurt can continue to affect us, and the trust with building other relationships in our life, as it can really permeate our lives. Maybe you are struggling with a broken relationship from the past and you're trying to find your way. You could even be struggling with your identity. You could be feeling lost and alone, struggling to overcome, with feelings that tell you you're perhaps even worthless. Maybe you're feeling very hurt and very angry. I want to tell you that you can get through this and you can recover. If I look at what has really caused me significant pain in my life, look, it's been the hurtful words that have been spoken over my life and the breakdown of significant relationships. Experiencing a breakdown of a significant relationship, look, like a marriage, a family breakdown, a long-term dear friend or a brother or a sister or a parent, it's heartbreaking. And I've found myself grieving the loss, as you would too. I've been deeply hurt and scarred in life through this. In an ideal world, marriages and partnerships and dear friends and family would reconcile and they'd work it out. But sadly, some marriages and significant relationships simply cannot be worked out, and you find yourself alone and your whole life is falling apart. This is heartbreaking. Huge questions can loom, like, how am I going to cope and pay the bills? And often there are children involved, and all you want to do is quietly go and grieve someplace, but you can't, because you can't afford to. You can't afford to take that break even with the responsibilities of living and life, and this all just seems to be overwhelming, and the grief that you can feel and sadness, but look, life must go on. The pain first experienced causes deep hurt and resentment. This can then slip within, causing deep inner resentment, ending up with real bitterness towards the previous relationship. And this continued unchecked can end up permeating your very being and your outlook on life. The optimism and trust you once had for people goes, and you find your joy and peace shattered. This affects your further relationships that you may go into, as you'll carry that hurt and pain and mistrust with you without you even realising it, and it will shape and dictate your life going forward, and it will limit your potential for who you're really meant to be. Time will help, but just hoping that time will eventually heal all without dealing with this doesn't work, and this will limit your potential, your life and your relationships. Reflecting back over my life, I've had 3 failed marriages, plus the failure of relationships. I can remember a lady I lived with that I thought our relationship was going well and we had a good future together, ended. I arrived home to find her in bed with my best friend. Look, you can understand how I felt. It took a long time to get that image out of my head. I felt used and abused, I felt betrayed, terribly hurt and very, very angry. I felt at some level, for her to cheat on me like this, she can't really have even loved me in the first place, and this made me feel unlovable and worthless. To be treated like this. I packed up my gear right then and and I left. The subsequent anger and mistrust and respect levels I had for women, and the hurt and resentment slipped deep within me, permeating my very, very being and causing me bitterness. This affected my relationships ongoing. I have to say, in the past, I didn't really know how to deal with things properly. So look, I just bottled it up inside, and then I medicated the hurt away through substance abuse. I also experienced a complete breakdown in relationships with my family for many, many years. This was heartbreaking, as we were originally quite close. I can remember I felt like I was abandoned by my family, totally misunderstood. My whole sense of belonging and identity was really shattered. I felt so alone, like nobody really understood me or even cared. I was so upset that I moved from New Zealand to Australia, where I lived for 20 years before coming back to New Zealand. Today I'm thrilled to say that I'm on good terms with all my family, which really means a lot to me. The past has been forgiven. Sadly, both of my parents have now passed on, but I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to put things right with both of them. I remember close to my father's death, we sat holding hands. Look, tears were in both of our eyes, and my father realising how much unforgiveness and hurt he'd held on to, and I too realised the same from my side. We both had let it go and had forgiven each other, and I remember my dad looking into my eyes and he said, "You know, son, isn't it wonderful to know everything is forgiven between us?" Look, we both just sat there quietly, tears flowing down our faces, and we sat there knowing that that relationship was finally restored. We had managed not only to overlook our hurt and pain towards each other, we'd forgiven each other, as we both could see the value of our love for each other meant so much more than the negative words that were spoken in anger and frustration and so much of the circumstances we'd gone through. We as humans naturally focus on the negative, and it blinds us from the moments of laughter, the times we share, where there was happiness. Sadly, shortly after that, my dad passed away. As you can see, sadly, I've had a lot of relationship failures, and I understand how much it hurts and how painful it can be. If you're listening to this and you're going through a relationship breakdown, my advice first and foremost is to ask yourself some serious questions. It always takes two in a breakdown, and what have I done wrong? And given the opportunity to learn from my mistakes, what could I change? This takes courage. It's much easier just to see the glaring faults in the other person than it is to see our own faults. But once we start changing our perspective and attitude, we may be able to see the problem with more clarity. And this could very well attract a better outcome in our lives. If you can afford to, I would urge you to seek counselling before you just part. And at least go down that path and seek help. Look, even if it turns out that the relationship can't be saved, a good counsellor can help you through the grief process and finally coming to that place where you can forgive and let it go. And if not, get with a close friend that you trust and talk it through. You have to be very careful here. It's got to be someone who loves you enough to be honest enough with you, and not just to tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. It's really important to share your feelings and emotions that you are experiencing. And it is very natural for us to want to go to people that will take our side. But find a true friend in this. It's very, very important. Someone that truly loves you. Within all of us is the tendency to want to find an instant cure to our pain. We often look outside of ourselves to find that instant fix. Often the temptation is to just jump straight into another relationship, experiencing all those new fresh feelings of new love. But the only problem with this is that once that initial wonderful new fresh relationship settles down and it's not fresh and new anymore, you're still carrying into it all the unresolved hurt and pain, and then you wonder why this isn't working when you really need time to work on self-healing. If you look to another person to be your happiness maker and to fill that loneliness, hurt and pain, you'll never find completeness and happiness this way. Once you have become complete in yourself, your life will dramatically change and you will naturally attract a partner that is together with lots to offer. No human being is fully together. This is a lifetime process, but you will have the potential for a really good and meaningful relationship. When you have really dealt with the past hurt and pain and you've let it go and you've come to that place where you're able to lovingly confront, forgive, and more importantly, able to take responsibility for your own choices, then you are far better equipped and ready to have, a good relationship. I've looked externally to find instant cures for my internal pain. I've chosen food as a companion and comfort, and I've never known when to stop eating sweet things like ice cream and chocolate. Then I'd get mad with myself for putting weight on, and then I'd just repeat the cycle again. I then became a gym junkie. These processes took over my life for quite a long time in recovery. I struggled to find balance. I found really the more I changed internally, the stronger I got, the easier my life became, and my life started to change externally. I'm not sure whether I will ever truly understand moderation completely, but my life clean and sober is happy and it's meaningful today. If you utilise time properly, time can be a great healer. I've outlined on previous videos the need to identify that hurt deep within, then forgiving and finally coming to that place of letting it go. Once you have got to this place, put this in the past where it belongs and leave it there. Some people write it in a letter and then burn it, signifying that this is the final end to it. Keeping a journal can be a great way to release emotions and gain clarity. Once you have finally let it go and you know you are free, go forward with a positive attitude, leaving the past in the past. Thankful for all those negative experiences as they've now helped you to become the positive person you are now. It's brought wisdom and understanding and growth to your life. And as you've worked through them, your life will now have far more depth. Having conquered and knowing that all the hurt and the pain from the past is gone will bring you a sense of happiness and achievement. Knowing that you are no longer that sad person, but rather empowered. Knowing that if you can get through this, nothing is impossible. The world is your oyster.